Let's talk a bit about cybersecurity here, and we'll talk about it from a few different standpoints, things that we can do personally, but especially things that businesses can do to provide security for themselves, but frankly for their reputation as well, and maybe things that our government leaders could be doing in an age where AI, artificial intelligence, is becoming more and more prevalent, and that provides a lot of opportunities. It also provides a lot of risks that we need to know about. Rahul Powar is with Sift. He has a rather fascinating resume in high tech development and security. Folks would recognize part of his early work as part of the founding team and the principal technical architect for Shazam back in 2000, building the first Shazam iPhone app alongside other systems that are related to music recognition and more. And then, along with other roles over the years, he now has a cybersecurity company, Sift, as part of his personal dedication to making the internet safer. And he joins us this morning to talk about AI and, again, keeping ourselves as safe as possible when we're online. Raul Kovar, good morning. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, good morning, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's nice to have you here. And like I said, you have a lot of experience that you've now dedicated toward internet safety, and a lot of your work is geared on the business side. So we will come to the personal side and maybe the government side as well. But from a business standpoint, the thing that jumped out at me was the way that a lot of what's letting bad individuals in and work on things like phishing emails and things are when companies have what are called forgotten subdomains that were mistakenly left in their systems and that other actors can take advantage of. So it sounds like you're really specializing in ways that businesses are unwittingly providing avenues for bad actors to come in and do things to the business or to their customers. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's right. I think most of your listeners would probably recognize the fact that there is an awful lot of phishing and fraud and impersonation going on online, whether that's from their banking partners, their healthcare providers, and this is actually happening all around the world, and that's mainly driven by a couple of things. And one of them is that organizations have a really hard time getting their hands around all of this infrastructure that they now have out on the internet that's communicating with their customers, with their supply chains. And bad actors are looking for all kinds of weaknesses that they can use to impersonate that organization, abuse that trust and relationship that they developed with their customers and the general public, and use that for some sort of nefarious activity.
And the reason that that's important, well, one of many though, is that it doesn't take much for trust to be violated if you're a business, a small business, big business, whatever the case, that you may have thought that you had nothing to do with a phishing campaign that uses your company's name, but your company's name can get besmirched in a hurry nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, in most surveys that are conducted, roughly 75% of customers will cut ties with a brand after a major cyber incident. And many of those customers will actually blame the company, not the attackers, ironically enough, for not keeping the house in order or basically not having the securities that are required to prevent these types of attacks from being effective. In some cases, that is unfair. I mean, a lot of organizations are under an enormous amount of strain, and cyber attackers are looking for any kind of weakness that they can find. But the reality is that these things happen, and when they happen, the impact of that can be quite significant.
We're talking to Rahul Powar. He's the founder of Sift, an internet security company about AI and deepfakes and phishing expeditions and things like that. And so let's talk not so much about the big businesses. A lot of them, well, they're aware of things. They have their own challenges, and certainly I know as a legislator, once upon a time, working with state government, and I was blown away at the statistics on just how many attacks any given corporate system is getting on any given day that you have to fend off. But apart from government and big business, when you look at some of these, medium-sized businesses, however you want to define them, I'm sure that it's one thing they didn't think that they'd have to think about, and probably to them sounds like I don't want to say an unnecessary expense, but I'm sure they wonder about the return on investment. So when you're working on businesses that aren't, say in the Fortune 500, what do you tell them about the need to make those investments in the cybersecurity of their business?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So naturally, I'm a technologist, so I feel pretty comfortable with technology. But there are lots of businesses, all the way from regional banks and healthcare providers to someone who runs an e-commerce shop online in their particular niche. A lot of those businesses don't realize that they're actually pretty digital today because they acquire customers through digital channels. They manage their internal systems of HR and payroll and their banking systems, all of that online really in 2025. So many businesses just haven't gotten around the mindset that actually whether, whatever they may have done, the last 100 years, these days, a lot of their risk is actually in the digital domain. And this is particularly true of those medium sized businesses, those regional businesses that are out there. And they need to think about their cybersecurity, their internet security, in very much the same way as they think about their physical security. And the way they rationalize those physical security investments, they've got to extend that to the digital domain because the impact of getting it wrong over there is actually pretty significant for everyone today.
Well, and that's where, in looking at your website, redsift.com, I took note of the need to fight AI with AI. The note here says effective defense requires AI tools that can scan the full attack surface, detect deepfakes and lookalike domains, prioritize the most dangerous threats, and drastically cut the need for manual triage workloads. That's a very in-depth way of saying it used to be really easy to spot phishing. I mean, not, I mean, people still fell for it, but it was, dear customer and things like that. And now, essentially, because they're using AI, you're saying AI has to be part of the toolkit for fighting the worst tools that AI can put out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, about 10 years ago, most people would train their employees that, if you want to spot phishing, look for misspellings, look for bad English. Nowadays, pretty much every bad actor has access to some sort of AI that's going to bang out perfect personalized English for, to target the target end customers. There's going to be AI that's going to spin up websites that look exactly like your bank, exactly like your healthcare provider, except all the links and buttons that point to various types of nefarious services. So this is really being industrialized and super powered through the use of AI, and I think it's unrealistic to expect, society, really, businesses, governments, to fight this with just pure human capital. It just isn't a very scalable solution. So us and a whole bunch of other businesses are out there trying to put AI tools into the hands of the defenders so that they can address some of these challenges in the same level of efficiency and scale that the attackers have access to today.
So again, fighting AI with AI is, again, you want to be fighting against, hackers and others on a level playing field. Is there anything in the notion of policy that either a federal government like Congress or state governments at the legislative level are there things that they can do to improve the situation as well, or at this point is public policy essentially powerless when you've got this much high tech that's already floating out there, changing and evolving every day?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I don't think there's a short answer to that, but I'll try my best. There are a whole bunch of technical solutions that are out there that can keep the general public safe, and a few of them have actually been mandated. So, there's some federal legislation that requires organizations to keep an inventory of all their digital assets, to implement certain protocols that help harden this attack surface against this type of impersonation, but it's quite limited in scope. It only hits, certain types of organizations that are critical national infrastructure or federal government itself. I think rolling that out to, as you mentioned before, the thousands and thousands of mid-market businesses that are out there that handle sensitive data like healthcare or financial data, those sorts of organizations should also probably have some sort of requirement to do the minimum that is required to stay secure online today. But that's taking a long time to really go through at any level of scale.
We're talking to Rahul Powar from Sift about AI and cybersecurity. We have spent a lot of time on the email and the phishing end of things. So many people are vulnerable to just clicking on the wrong thing, trusting an email too much. But from the standpoint of AI, there's also what's being done with deep fakes in terms of video and audio, but especially video. There was a report over the weekend about President Trump apparently essentially responding to a video that turned out to be a deep fake video. And I guess there are people that would want to throw up their hands and say, "Well, I can't believe anything I see if I can't trust that a video isn't a deep fake." But I don't think the answer is to throw your computer in the garbage. Rahul, can you help us try to navigate an era of deep fakes and try to be more mindful, or just eternally cynical about what we see?
Yeah, I think for now, eternally cynical is a reasonable default setting when you're browsing the internet or media. I mean, to be fair, people don't fully understand just how easy and how effective the tools are today to generate these types of, still images and video. I mean, everyone appreciates that AI models can generate some pretty compelling text, but the technology has evolved so rapidly over the last year and year and a half that you can pretty much generate very, very convincing looking deepfakes based on a voice clone or an image of another person. So I think making sure that you do your research, check the background, don't trust everything that you see online, because it is extremely straightforward and easy for a bad actor to produce something that's very visually compelling in a very short space of time. I am optimistic that the technology will get better. I think we're getting better at detecting some of this stuff now, and so now over time, I expect it'll be easier for us to identify what is quote unquote real and what is not. But this is an arms race that's live at the moment.
Oh, very much so. And so folks could learn more over at redsift.com. That's REDSIFT, redsift.com/resource dash center. And is there any other final quick words for people individually to feel at least a little bit better about how to navigate the online world these days?
Yeah, I think individually choices are limited because ultimately it's down to the organizations to really harden their attack surface and make it more difficult and more expensive for the bad actors to do this.
Okay.
But I would recommend that individuals stay paranoid especially when they're looking at text messages and emails. If your bank suddenly asks you to do something really unexpected at a really unexpected time, it's likely to be a fake.
Exactly. Rahul Pavar, thank you very much for the visit and for the advice. It's much appreciated. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And again, redsift.com is the website to go to on that.